Oh, we finally know. We finally know. Let me reposition myself here. What started the great migration of Microsoft and Xbox? We've known for a little bit, I would say, but we're starting to see the tendency that's come out throughout the past years. And a lot of this is Microsoft's fault, Xbox's fault, no doubt. So we got some information by Michael Pachter and his, I believe it's his Patreon thing, but he apparently talked to Marvel, and here's some notes from it. So let's go ahead and go over there. Let's go over to Twitter. So as you guys can see here, here's some notes from it. Breaking: Marvel's Spider-Man was planned as a multi-plat game, according to Michael Pachter. Now let's keep in mind, sometimes Michael Pachter has been wrong. We're not gonna act like he hasn't, but from time to time he's been wrong. Actually, he's been wrong a lot. But when it comes to stuff like this, it's easy verifiable. And if he's talking out of his ass, Marvel would easily just come out and say, "Yo, you're out of pocket for this statement." Marvel told him Sony paid up for an exclusive franchise deal. The deal closed after work on the game had started. Sony acquired Insomniac to hold captive sequel. So, what does that mean? That means that Spider-Man was probably one of those original games that Microsoft really didn't want to invest a whole lot into. Keep in mind that's before, the MCU really elevated Spider-Man to another level. Now, Spider-Man's always been on another level, but I would say the MCU definitely made him even more mainstream than he was currently at that time. Now, I feel like people can definitely go out there and you can make a good argument that Microsoft brought this on themselves because apparently, Marvel went up and offered them. And, it's one thing to deny something, and I think that's at the time where the future of Xbox was very unclear for Microsoft, so they didn't know what they were going to do with the brand. And I think at this point, they weren't really investing money. And, Michael Pachter said they were actually focusing on their own IPs. Well, the Marvel executive said that. So that makes sense. But I think that's one of those original things that Xbox really learned from. At the time, maybe, we don't know if it was a yes or a no, if they could have invested even if they wanted to. But I think that is one of the first things that popped up that Xbox was like, we're never going to let that happen again. Then that's when they started looking into investing into, they made the Initiative. They made they bought Double Fine. They also put the Ninja Theory out there. They bought Compulsion. And I think that was initially some of the reactions that it's like, look, that's probably the first time Microsoft we need to own stuff. We don't need to just rent stuff out because they did that a lot in the Xbox 360 generation. I feel like that was biting them straight in the ass in the Xbox One generation. A lot of the issues that Microsoft has been self-inflicting, and let me go a little bit more in detail what that means. Even with the fiasco of the Xbox One, you can argue that they were kind of hurting themselves during the 360 deal. They were working with a lot of second-party deals, getting games exclusive on their platform, from BioShock to the Mass Effect franchise. There was a lot of things that they could have done better in that generation. They should have nurtured more of their studios. I would say PlayStation did a fantastic job nurturing their studios during the PS4 generation. And that's why you're seeing PlayStation 4 in this divine state. Now, they've always been a very popular brand, PlayStation has, but I would say after the PlayStation 4 and during the PlayStation 4, they just got a lot more popular. And that's what Microsoft learned from that. They really learned, it's like, look, we got to own stuff. One of the biggest things that Sony does, they do get these second party, third party, timed exclusives, as like Forspoken. They might not necessarily own Square Enix yet, but they own The Last of Us. They own God of War. They own the Ratchet and Clank that they was having Insomniac make. And, even Colin has said, for the most part, that mindset hurt PlayStation at the beginning of the PlayStation 4 and during the 360 deal, because every dev or every indie developer that approached them to help fund a game, it was like, we want to own the product, and that hurt them. And Microsoft was a little bit more lingered on that. Like, they would actually work with companies if they didn't own the IP, and that hurt them, And I'm not saying don't do that, I do think there's a give and a take. If the game looks promising enough and you think it's actually going to bear fruit, but they want to own their IP, maybe take that kind of risk from time to time. But I would say between Spider-Man being ripped off of PlayStation after being ripped off of Xbox after PlayStation paid for the timed exclusivity, Deathloop being ripped off because of timed exclusivity, Ghostwire Tokyo, potentially Starfield, Final Fantasy Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There's been a plethora of good stuff. Persona 5, because that's around the time the original Persona 5 came out. I would say about that time, it really showed even, Sony was investing in both. They were investing in timed exclusivities, and they were nurturing their own companies. And I think that's what you're seeing Microsoft do. They're like, look, we might not necessarily have the time to go out and nurture like a Naughty Dog from the ground up. It takes years. We can go out and buy Bethesda, though, because we've worked with them for years, and we kind of know what their culture is like. We know the players over there. We know a lot of the team. We can have a good relationship with that, and I think that's why they're able to secure that deal so fast. Activision deal, I think that just landed in their lap. Microsoft got to the point where they were done making the same mistakes. Now, obviously, we got to see the games. But I would say, after seeing this Spider-Man deal and seeing the fact that it was at one time being worked as an Xbox game, and it's funny because I remember all that talk with, Tomb Raider being ripped off of Xbox, and all that talk of Starfield being ripped off of Xbox, Redfall being ripped off of PlayStation. I mean, all those are PlayStation. And then, I don't really see a whole lot of talk about PlayStation going in there and paying for a time to exclude. Now, I get it. Microsoft was given that same opportunity. We don't know who they approached first. Maybe they were trying to go to Xbox with a counter offer, and maybe the price was too high. And it's like I said, even if they could get that kind of money, it's hard to tell if Microsoft was going to let them back in that time. Like I said, things were really, really spooky with Microsoft in terms of the Xbox brand around the time these deals were made. And once again, no one really knew, could a comic book hero game work outside of the Arkham franchise? I think that they should have tried to at least for a Spider-Man deal, but we don't know exactly the context behind that deal. But I would say that this was probably the first time, like, it just was out there. Like, you got to own your own stuff. Spider-Man they don't own, but it's an opportunity they missed that they could have easily have gotten. I think it showed them, we got to be more aggressive. And I think that's what Microsoft learned from the Spider-Man deal. We got to be more aggressive. We got to take the risk and buy stuff like Bethesda and Activision, ABK. We got to buy stuff like Ninja Theory. We got to be more aggressive. If not, PlayStation is going to get us up out of this industry. And I think that's what happened. But put in the comment section below, do you guys think that maybe this still on top of the other deals is the reason Xbox is way more aggressive than they used to be? Very curious to hear your guys' opinion. But, until the next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.